Welcome. It is Wednesday. What is the date today? Today is May 5th. No, I'm sorry, May 6th. Yesterday was Cinco de Mayo. So thank you for joining us. This is one of an ongoing series of talks and sharing of information that we are providing to you. We're glad you can participate. And today we're going to be talking about things you should be doing, or at least things you should be aware of going forward for the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. We call it the Hunt for New Revenue, named after one of our favorite movies, The Hunt for Red October. But the Hunt for New Revenue results from a study that we've completed with the Sandler Research Center. So we're going to get into some of that today with you. The Hunt for New Revenue. Sandler Research Center was started, we'll get into that in just a second, but it's, for a long time, we've been saying that our observation, our tendencies in going after new business, we suspect consist of this or that or this or that. Never really had any data to base that on. Today, we're going to share with you some raw data that we've taken from a number of companies where we can draw some pretty definitive conclusions about what we're doing now, what we have been doing, and maybe which we should pivot and focus on over the next 30, 60, 90 days, as hopefully we come out of this and refocus on going out and getting new clients and new customers. So we'd ask you going forward, if you want to participate in the chat, use that chat bar on the side. We're going to be monitoring that. If you have any observations or specific questions, don't be shy. You can take yourself off mute and shout them out, or you can use the chat bar. But share your thoughts, share your ideas, share your observations, and we'll get to those as much as we can.
And Jim, don't forget to remind them to click speaker view.
Speaker view, yes.
And pin so you can see us and you can see what's on the screen a lot better than having 40-some pictures on your screen.
Okay, yeah, good idea. So far, this is what we've talked about. Surviving and thriving and what we're going on now, whatever this pandemic is. Behaviors, attitudes, and techniques that you should have going forward. We've talked about leadership strategies for managers and business owners, corporate executives. We've talked about playbooks. I know some of you have worked on setting up and refining and building and constructing your playbook for yourself and your team. We've worked with some of you on that. We've shared with you some of our best practices down through the weeks, and we've gotten into using technology, some of the tools that are available to you. And then last week we talked about resetting your goals. Today, we're going to talk about different ways, tools, tactics, ideas, best practices going forward to build your revenue base. Again, the next 3 months, the next 6 months, from now through the end of the year. So we're going to get into that in some detail today. So, Clint, why don't you start us off here?
All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick poll, but let me tell you why Jim and I decided that this was the right timing for this session. I was talking with a client last week, and you know how after a crisis or something bad happens, everybody looks to Saturday Night Live to say, hey, is it okay to laugh again? You know, and because we've had a lot of conversations with companies over the past month or two, and a lot of them have retracted, really went into a client retention mode, which absolutely makes sense. You got to hold on to what you've got, because the empathy that needed to happen in order to start outreaching again was difficult for a lot of people. Like, hey, I don't want to sound salesy. I don't want to seem like I'm going after a sale right now in some way, shape, or form. And so we've changed a lot of messaging with that. But even still, now we feel like, hey, things are changing pretty rapidly. But over the past week or so, it's time to now go back after and start hunting again for new business. So that's what we're going to end up diving in today. So we're going to start you off with a real quick poll. So in the next 15 seconds, you're going to see a poll pop up. It's going to ask you a few questions just around where are you struggling the most? So that'll help Jim and I as we spend some time today with you to really kind of narrow down in on some certain things. So take a moment and click on what answer is going to be the best based upon your situation.
Can they check all that apply or just one?
Just one is good.
Okay. All
if
right.
you want to check more than one,
sure.
You can.
Yeah. And we'll see what it says. We'll take a survey of the 80 or 90 or 100 people that are on here today and see what's on your mind. Some of the things you struggle with, some of the things you face either in the past or going forward.
And in about 10 seconds, we're going to show you the results so that you can see across the board what everybody's having happen.
We'll give it a few more seconds. So the question is, what are some of the things you're struggling with as you are prospecting, as you're hunting for new opportunities, new clients, new revenue? What are some of the things you're facing? These could be new things. These could be things that are just ongoing for you. There might be some things on there that you're struggling with that we didn't even think to list.
Which would be other.
Which would be other, sure. Okay.
All right, let's see what the results are.
All right. Clint, you want to read that? I can't see that far.
I wish. I got nothing. You guys can read it. Yeah, I just can't see it from here. So.
Okay.
Okay, responses from emails and voicemails seem to be spiking up the most.
Referrals?
And quality
right.
referrals.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, so this kind of leads us into where we're going to head today. So Jim, click on the next one. So let me give you some background of why we put the format together that's going to kind of take us through the next 50 minutes. The Sandler Research Center was started a little bit over two and a half years ago. We were, if you guys know much about business intelligence organizations, we've got some participants from SME here locally that is a business intelligence company. What they do is they look at companies like us and they go, wow, what kind of data do you have and how are you bringing all of that data together? Well, one of the things that we realized from a Sandler corporate standpoint, we have a lot of data. We have a ton of data, but we were not grasping it and we were not being able to collect it in the way that we really needed to be able to collect it. We have over 270 locations across the world. And the amount of people we touch and train is in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on an ongoing regular basis, but we weren't tapping into that data. So about 2-3 years ago, we started the Sandler Research Center that was designed to start doing surveys and go out and collect and find this data to help not just us internally from Sandler, but also help our clients to be able to know what to do and how to do it. And it gave us better direction. So the Sandler Research Center did a survey on the hunt for new business. And what we've done is we figured out, hey, we got to collaborate with the top salespeople. We got to aggregate best practices together, get all the critical insights. So this survey that was sent out last fall came out with this kind of information. This is how it was put together. You can see what's clicking up on the screen. This was all the data that went into what we're going to share with you today around these specific tactics around referrals, around LinkedIn, and around how to make an approach call. And there's a reason why we put those three in there versus some of the others that we could have done. So this is all based upon data and research that we're following in order to put the tactics to it.
Somebody always asked, what's the source, what's your data, your universe? So this was almost 1,600 respondents to the survey that we did, encompassing about 600 plus companies and businesses, responses from 66 countries in addition to New Jersey.
Jim, it's Jeannie. Can you hear me? We can't hear you.
Can't hear us? No. Oh, okay, sorry. Is that better? So the data's from 66 countries. We came up with a strategy. What is that strategy? How do we maximize time and minimize costs? And where and how do we hunt for business? That's what we're going to be focusing on. So what does it show? The good, the bad, and the ugly. We're focusing on lead generation. Where do we find new business? How do we come up with new business? And how do we maximize the return on our investment and minimize our costs? The effectiveness of that lead generation, the cost, not just in terms of financial cost, but time and effort. Time is obviously going to be an issue because we're finding that lead times are going to be expanding. It's going to be harder and harder to get people to act on things that you're trying to get them to act on. How do we shrink that from initial presentation and initial inquiry to where they become clients? So in order to do that, we had to get some data, we had to get some research. And here's one of the questions that, one of the things that we came up with. What percentage of your selling time is devoted to prospecting for new clients? This was one of the questions we asked in the survey. And the results were kind of interesting because when we think about the sales process, our belief is that as business development professionals, we should be spending our time roughly a third, selling, servicing, prospecting. So you would think that you would spend at least a third of your time, if not more, prospecting for new business opportunities. Here's what the research showed. It showed that about a third of the respondents spend somewhere between 0 and 20% of their time prospecting for new clients. Another third spend less than 40%. So you've got nearly 2/3 of the respondents that spend somewhere less than 40%, maybe 30% of their time prospecting for opportunities. Pretty good, all things considered, with all the other demands on your time. But you think about what you could be doing, especially the data on the far left, the people that spend about a third of their time doing little to no prospecting for business. Now, maybe their industries, maybe their companies are of the mode where they don't have to prospect, they handle incoming business. That's well and good. Interesting data though. So then now we say, we got to look at the characteristics of the ideal client. If I decide that I am going to go after new business, who do I target? Who do I go after? Which clients fit my sweet spot, my bullseye, so that I can maximize my effort, my return on time, and minimize the cost associated with that? So here's what we found. The characteristics of your ideal client. This is based again on 1,500 plus respondents. The top three seem to be this. Your ideal client, in many instances, is based on the size of the client, the growth potential of the opportunity, and also the financial viability of the prospect. Pretty common sense. We don't really worry about too much about culture fit or geography or other considerations. So we got to start there. Who are we going after in terms of new business opportunities? So how much of your current client base, based on that, fits your ideal prospect profile? That's one of the things we wanted to find out. What percentage of your client base fits your ideal client profile? And here's what we discovered. Of the respondents, it said that somewhere between 40 and 60% of your client base fits your ideal client profile. It's pretty good, but you take a look at the number of clients that don't fit your ideal profile. Maybe that means that we settled on bringing them on board as a customer. Maybe that means that we're trying to cram a square peg into a round hole. Maybe it means that maybe we don't have an idea yet what our ideal profile is. But you take a look at all the stuff outside of that, the number of clients that don't necessarily fit your ideal client profile, yet we're trying to land that fish into the boat. So we have a tool for that. Those of you that we work with on a regular basis, you already have this, you know what this is. It's called the Ideal Company Profiler. This is a tool that you can use to figure out, before you go ready, fire, aim at opportunities. This is designed to make you ready, aim, fire. Who are we going after? How are we going after it? What are the characteristics of your average sale? What is your ideal company in terms of size, location, what they're currently doing? What are some of their pain indicators? And what are some of the market, industry, or triggers that would compel them to want to do business with you? These tools are available. See your Sandler trainer if you don't have them. Ping us. We'll be happy to share that with you. So, Clint, take it from here.
Yeah, so think about the progression we're taking you through right now. If you're going to hunt, do you know exactly what you're hunting for? And have you targeted that specific bullseye of what you're looking for? It doesn't mean that you'll go out one layer peripheral and then the other ones that find you'll take, but we want to make sure that as we move forward, we know exactly what we're going after. So what are all the ways that you could go after new clients, new prospects? So during the survey, take a look at all the things. Jim, pull this up. Take a look at all the ways that you could go after and find new clients. And what we did is we surveyed and we said, okay, what are all the hunting ways that you go after? And then what we did is we took them and we stack ranked them to find out what's the most effective and least effective. So I want you to think right now, if you were to stack rank your prospecting activity, How would you stack rank them from most effective to least effective? And then where are you spending your time and energy and effort? So show them the next slide. So take a look at this slide. This one shows which were the least successful activities that you could do. Look at this. Cold calling, least successful, right? Followed by marketing, email. And now a lot of you are going, okay, yeah, that makes a heck of a lot of sense. And then you can see here referrals as the lowest, which means you're going to see in the next slide opposite. So Jim, show them this. Which were the most successful? Now take a look at this and look at where we're going. And this is why we're going to roll right into referrals. But now look at networking. Right? I don't know about you, but networking isn't happening right now. You know, there's a few maybe facilitated networking events that are very structured that, you know, that may be working, but in this COVID-19 world, that's not happening. It will come back at some point in time. But really what we want you to see is look at cold call, approach calls. That now showed as it was the least successful, yet now on the most successful, it comes up as the third most. I remember seeing all kinds of things that popped up that said the death of the cold call, death of the cold call. Well, there's all kinds of ways to warm that up. And we've even changed our terminology to an approach call. We're going to talk about some of the tactics that you need to have a good approach call. But let's face it, this is still a very, very successful way of getting introduced into new opportunities and new clients. It has to be part of your cookbook if you are in a hunter mentality business. So Jim, take us through referrals.
So referrals and introductions, if we go back here, it tells us in terms of the prospecting activities that were the most successful. You can see that,
that's the least.
I'm sorry,
There you go.
Here we go. What methods have you tried to attract new clients? Referrals is number one. So how are you going about attracting referrals now? How are you going about getting those? So one of the things you got to look at is how to do it, when and where to do it. But I think what you got to figure out first is you have to answer the question, are you referable? Are you the kind of person where you would refer somebody to you, or you would refer somebody out? And there's certain criteria that we determine to figure out whether or not you deserve that referral into a new opportunity. So some of the questions you might want to ask yourself, are you trustworthy? Can people take your word or your opinion to the bank? Are you reliable? Do you say you were going to do, do you do what you say you're going to do? Can people rely on you to deliver? Are you responsive? What's your follow-up like? Do you return calls? Do you return emails? Do people have to chase you down to get an answer? Are you credible? To what extent are you a subject matter expert? Can they believe what it is you're saying? Do you know your product or service? What's your reputation like? Can you go back and cite case studies, success stories that you've provided to other clients and other individuals? What about reciprocity? Are you the kind of person that gives back? Are you the kind of person where you're always looking out for the other individual? We know the old line is giver's gain, but are you always looking out for the other person's best interests? And lastly, what kind of value do you bring to the relationship? Are people better off knowing you and utilizing your products and services? Will they say, you know what? I think that the day that I met Clint was one of the best days of my life because he impacted my business in this way, shape, or form. So those are some of the criteria that we look at and say, are you first and foremost referable? So here's the process. Here's some of the technique that you can use in terms of attracting referrals. Brainstorm with your referral sources. Would you mind taking a few minutes to brainstorm with me about who you know that might need my help or similar services or whatever? Engage the referral source. Which CEO or company executive or business owner do you know that might appreciate a phone call from me? These are all talk tracks that we're happy to provide you. Who do you care about that would want my help? Some of you viewing today and some of you watching and listening probably have referral techniques that work well for you. Feel free to share those in the chat box.
Jim, let's make an emphasis on this.
Go ahead.
Imagine asking a referral source of that. Who do you care about? Whose business do you care about that may be a client of yours that you care about enough to make that introduction? That's hitting them on a totally different way, mentally and emotionally, because now it gets them thinking about, yeah, what businesses or clients of mine that I care enough about to be able to introduce them to somebody like you that could help their business. So I think you got to put this, don't just take the text here. Think about the concept that's trying to create from an emotional connection with that referral source, the person that you trust enough to be able to make a good introduction to you.
Who do you know would meet with me based solely on your recommendation? They don't know me from Adam, but who would meet with me based strictly on your recommendation that they take my call? One approach you might want to consider. As we brainstorm, please keep in mind that we're not right for everyone. We don't have everybody's answers to everybody's problems. Let me take just a minute to explain that to you. And now I have to clarify that with my referral source. So let's talk about technology. Clint?
So you saw the spike, LinkedIn. My belief is, out of everybody that's attending here, my belief is 100% this, is that you absolutely are on LinkedIn. Big question is give yourself a ranking on a scale of 0 to 10. Where would you put yourself as a user and participant on LinkedIn and that tool? You know, whenever I've done this in front of a class, it usually ends up somewhere around a 5 or a 6. So what we're going to do is touch on some points that that may bring some value to you understanding how to maybe use LinkedIn a little bit better to start your hunting and prospecting. So,
Far and away the most successful.
Yep. Take a look at this slide. This slide I created for another client of mine, and I wanted to show this to you, and to let you know my belief and what I think is so important is that LinkedIn has got to become the center of your prospecting universe. And as you view yourself all the way around this slide here, take a look. If you're going out networking, once we can start doing that again, and you meet some people, your follow-up with most of them probably should just be, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. If you meet them and you set an appointment, wonderful, great. If you're making cold calls and you talk to somebody and maybe now's not the right time, maybe it's time to connect with them somewhere down the line, you didn't get anywhere, we'll send them a LinkedIn invite. Trade shows, cold emails, referrals. I had a couple pushbacks. No, CRM should be the center of your universe. Well, if somebody leaves, one of your contacts, a client of yours leaves from the company that you're working with right now and goes to another company, will your CRM tell you that? Absolutely won't. But will LinkedIn pop up in the notifications that, oh, you know, Joey just got a brand new job at XYZ company, which is an area that I am constantly looking at from a LinkedIn perspective. That notifications, when somebody that I know left one company and went to the next, that is absolutely perfect time for me to be able to reach out to him or her, congratulate them, and then put them on my follow-up list so that I know, hey, in about a month or two, now's going to be the right time to be able to ping that person and see if the company that they went to work for might be a good fit for what I do. So you can see how I'm looking at this as everything funnels into my LinkedIn, and I got to be strategic about it. I don't want a bunch of people and connections in there that doesn't fit, but hopefully this shapes your mindset a little bit about that. So LinkedIn best practices. In a moment, I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share my screen, walk through a couple things just to bring your heightened sense of awareness too. But first off, if you haven't updated your profile in a while, please do. Please take a look at that. The only one thing I'm refusing to change grudgingly, but I probably will soon, is my picture. My picture is a little bit older, or makes me a little bit younger. I like it. You know, I might be able to change that soon, but
Your high school picture.
it is my high school picture, yeah. So obviously making sure it's professional, but here's what I want you to do. Take a look at your profile and look back at it. Is it really just your resume? Or does it really outline the kind of customers and companies you want to work with? Those of you that know how we position our 30-second commercial with pain indicators and pain bullet points, you know, please make sure you structure that so when you do send an invite to somebody and before they accept it, they look at your profile. What do they see? They're going to look at that and they're going to make that decision based upon, hey, does this person have any value to be able to bring to me? Next is, inviting the right people. Keep them very, very strategic of who you want to get in front of. And we're going to show you some of those invite scripts here in a moment. You got to have a reason to connect. If you're just sending an invite without a personalized note, you probably have less of a reason why they would want to connect with you. Using InMail, I will tell you right now, I get this question all the time. Hey, Clint, what do you think about Sales Navigator versus the free version? 100%. If you are in a prospecting hunting role, the $800–900 a year you're going to spend for Sales Navigator, if you don't make that back, it's because you're not using Sales Navigator in the right way. It is an investment that is now worth the time. 2, 3, 4 years ago, I might have said, it all depends on whether you're using LinkedIn enough or not. Now I'm encouraging you, absolutely make the investment, because it allows you so much opportunity to be able to do searches and really drill down into that ideal client you're trying to get in front of. That's why we started out with the ideal client. You know what you're going after. If you've got that, now you got a way to be able to really drill down your Boolean searches in Sales Navigator to be able to really hunt for the kind of prospects you want to get in front of. And then last couple things, please make sure that you are scheduling. If you don't need to schedule, if you're on it enough, that's great, but scheduling that you're on LinkedIn 2 or 3 times a day, minimum. And that is to look at what is happening in your feed, look at what's happening in your network, and participate. It's nice to like, it's better to comment, and then it's also get on a posting schedule. Please consider getting on a posting schedule. What are you doing to put good, valuable content out there? It's the old 80-20 rule, right? 80% of any content I put out there has to be for the greater good. I'm giving back. I'm talking about valuable content. The other 20%, talk about your business, talk about what events you have coming up, and connect with your audience. Lastly, if I were to jump on everybody's profile right now and take a look, would I be able to see in your last events, last things that you posted, would I be able to see some of the videos you've done and shot? Video is the #1 consumed media right now. If you don't believe that, go find a teenager and ask him or her about TikTok. I got 2 of them, can't get them off the thing. They're constantly consuming video. Same way with LinkedIn. You see a video on your feed, that is connecting with your clients and customers. Jim and I, our cadence, twice a month. Twice a month, we're putting a video out there on LinkedIn. We feel like that's the right cadence for us. That's going to continuously be able to give back, give good, valuable content. And we have a gentleman named Joel Friedman that we use that comes in, helps us produce it. It's not expensive. It's well worth it. And Joel does a great job with editing it and putting the closed caption in there, or the open caption, so that you can see the words, the lighting's right. But if you got to start someplace, start with a simple iPhone video. So let me, I'm going to share my screen here real quick so that I can show you just a couple quick things that might add some validity to this. So please don't look at me, but look at your screen while I do this. So a couple things, and I'm going to start over here. Notifications, please make sure you're mining that. That's going to give you any recent things that have happened. So look at this. We got some mentions here already on our session today. So when somebody likes a post or something that you've done, those are opportunities for you to be able to go in and look at those and then collaborate and then connect with those people. Give some feedback to them. Hey, really appreciate you liking. And here's what will happen to you, because it sure as heck happened to me. Somebody will like something that I haven't talked to in years. Like Casey. Casey all of a sudden shows up. I haven't talked to Casey in probably 2 or 3 years, right? And now she did, and guess what? Casey, I'm gonna be reaching out to you. But if I saw you like something of mine, it might prompt me to go, hey, you know something, I haven't talked to Casey. I wonder how she's doing. And the next thing you know, who knows? I could talk to her, and maybe we can help each other out with our network. So please, this is the value of posting, and this is the first place that I go when I pop open my LinkedIn in the morning. Then you've got, anything, incoming messages, jobs. If you just have the my network. All right, let me speak to this. This is where you're getting people coming into you. Here's what I would highly encourage you to do. Don't accept everybody and anybody, right? Here's what I do. When somebody sends me like Marshall and Sean, I don't know either of these people. Doesn't mean that I'm not opposed to knowing them. But I want you to ask you this: how do you respond back to these people that sent you an invite without accepting them? If you don't know how, watch this. I click on see all, and now what it'll do is it'll take me here. Now see this reply to Sean. So sometime probably before Monday, I'll hop in here and I'll send a note back to Sean that just says, hey, Sean, really appreciate the invite to connect. Since we haven't had a chance to meet each other, I really, look forward to that. But could you give me a little bit of understanding what you do, how I might be able to help you with my network? Or maybe you noticed something in my profile about Sandler training that you wanted to explore. Either way, shoot me a note and let me know how I can help you. It's a very nurturing text that I want to find out, okay, this person decided to invite me, help me to understand why. If he or she is just looking to build their network, fine. If we have a little bit of dialogue, at least I know who this person or individual is. I can tell you this, about, I'd say 70 to 80% of them never respond back to me, and therefore they don't get access or don't get into my network. So a couple other last things. Take a look at the search. Well, take a look at the search bar here. If you don't have Sales Navigator and you click in the search and then you click on the magnifying glass, it will now allow you to at least do a little more Boolean search of connections, locations, and current companies. I'm not sure exactly why LinkedIn or Microsoft decided to hide that and not be able to show us, but gives you a better way of doing a little bit more of a drill down search. Okay. And then last thing that I really want to show you is your profile. All right. And making sure that you're putting in your profile on, on what you have to have in there that somebody's going to view and see. So if somebody looks at my profile, they're going to look at this and they're going to see, and those of you that know Sandler a little bit, you're going to see my pain bullet points. Hey, these are my typical client issues. And what am I trying to do there? I'm trying to connect with somebody that says, oh yeah, hey, I've got some issues with lack of a consistent sales methodology in place. That identifies me really well. And now they've got an understanding of what I do based upon the things that we fix and we solve. Okay. All right. I'm going to cancel out of this. Oh, one last thing. Let me hop into Sales Navigator real quick. Sales Navigator. If you don't have it, you heard my message. I'd consider you getting it. Here's one of the things that you can really do out of Sales Navigator is you can do a lot more searches and you can save your search. So I've got one teed up here. A search that I have that runs every week is presidents. So I'm looking for anybody that comes into my network that's at least a second connection that is a president. So if somebody, like I'm connected to Jim and I'm connected to a lot of you that are on this call, let's say it's Maggie Fowler and I'm connected to her and Maggie gets a new connection into her network that's a president, this search is going to be able to pull that up and now I'll be able to go in and see, oh, who's this president? Oh, this is this person. And how am I connected? And what are all my connections to this person? So now I can target the titles of the people that I'm trying to get into. And I've got a fresh list that happens every single month and every single week because of my connections are pulling other CEOs and presidents and VPs of sales and chief revenue officers into that. So it's just a way to really make sure you're dialing in your LinkedIn searches to hit that bullseye of the ideal client that you've got. All right, Jim, click on the slide here because I'm going to stop sharing. And now take a look at this. I'm not going to read this as much to you as I want you to be able to leave here with some snapshots of what are some of the LinkedIn email and LinkedIn note templates. So if this is somebody that's an email that there's some kind of connection, this is my note to them. This is what I have. I just copy and paste this into there and be able to put the person's name. So it allows me to be able to really quickly be able to send out a message, send out an invite to somebody or an email to somebody or in-mail that is going to be able to be very relatable and give them an understanding of why I want to connect with them.
So that's if you do have a connection.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. If there's no connection, right up front, hey, we don't know each other. However, on occasion, I see somebody's profile. And you can see here what I'm doing is coming right out with, hey, it might make sense for us to connect and benefit from knowing each other. I'm not hitting them with a sales pitch. I have no earthly idea if it would or if it does. And I'm trying to take a very genuine approach with this text. So it helps to be able to, when somebody sees that message, I don't know about you, but if I get an invite from somebody and there's no message whatsoever, it goes to my bottom of my list of interest in connecting with them. And then, you know, my email to a LinkedIn contact. Hey, you know, Rob, I see that you're connected. So if I'm connected to you and I see that you're connected to somebody that I want to get introduced to, this is what I'm sending just to find out, hey, how well do you know this person? Because I've got 4,600 connections or so. I've done a pretty good job of keeping it pretty tight to people that I specifically do know and have some semblance of relationship with, but I can't guarantee that 5 to 10% of those people that are out there that I really don't have a good relationship with. So if you sent me this message, I'll at least be able to shoot back and say, hey, yeah, I kind of know the person, but not really, or yeah, I know the person good enough. How can I help? And it allows you to get that person's help to make that next introduction. So for a client, to send to his or her contact. So what ends up happening is somebody says, all right, Clint, well, what do you want me to say? Is there some kind of introduction you'd like me to make? Hey, sure, let me just send you a quick template so that I can make it really easy for you, and away we go. And it just allows them to take this, copy and paste it, and put it in a message, and real simple, real fast, real quick, and real easy.
We have these, and we're happy to share these with you. All you got to do is ping us or drop us a note, and happy to share these with you.
All they have to do is pay us?
Yeah, exactly.
Ping us. Sorry,
ping
you
us
said ping
and pay us, right.
Ping us. All right.
What about LinkedIn levers?
Yeah, LinkedIn levers. So this comes out of our Sandler enterprise selling tool. And what this is a cool little one-pager that just goes through and it asks you these questions. And it can be used for a prospect. It can be used for a current client, somebody that's in your pipeline right now. What's awesome is you pick any one of this. Does the client endorse others? Is he and she endorsed often? You know, what kind of profile, what kind of reputation do they have out there, and are they even active on LinkedIn? And it just takes you through a nice mental checklist of what's happening with this person from a social media standpoint. And this is an absolute simple and wonderful tool just to let you know, hey, I had one of my clients call it, it's fingerprinting. This is fingerprinting your client. Where's the fingerprints? Where's the clues that I can use in my engagement with this opportunity to really be able to connect with them in a way that nobody else has?
So we talked about referrals. We talked about technology with LinkedIn. You'll notice on one of the previous slides that there still is a place for cold calling. Some of you do a lot of it. Some of you do very little of it. We believe that there is a place for calling. It's not something that we like to do. It's something that we probably should do as part of our overall prospecting cookbook. The question is, especially in today's environment, how do you do it effectively? How do you do it so you don't come across so salesy? How do you do it so that people are at least willing to entertain a conversation with you? We don't call them cold calls. We call them approach calls. How do we approach somebody with the idea of at least having a conversation? So we say one of the things you have to do is you can't just wing it. You have to prepare the introduction. You can call it scripting. Some people don't like the term scripting. I understand, but you need to prepare what you're going to say. You can't just pick up the phone and wing it. It might look something like this. Now, you have your own way of doing it. This is just a suggestion. The purpose of the call is simply to start a conversation. Mr. Customer, this is your name. You're probably in the middle of 100 different things. Am I catching you at a bad time? That's a pattern interrupt. Am I catching you at a bad time? I don't want to say, is this a good time? Because in today's day and age and environment, it's never a good time. If I ask them, am I catching you at a bad time? They can say either, no, I got a minute, or yes, I'm really busy. What's this call about? Either way, I can proceed. You don't know me. My company is Sandler Training. Before I share with you the purpose of my call, you mind if I ask you a question? Are your people getting back to work these days, or did you ever stop? How have you been holding up during these times? So I'm just expressing some concern. I'm not going into a pitch about who we are or what we do. My goal is to engage the client. Now I have to modify my prospecting script. I have to change my approach once I get there. We've talked to a lot of people about the impact of the current situation on their business, and we're hearing one of two different situations. Some people believe that they should think about ramping up and getting back to work. Others find themselves in the fortunate position that they didn't miss a beat over the last couple of months. What situation is your company in? Get them talking, get them engaged. People really don't care about who you are. Nobody wants to be sold, but give them a chance to talk, give them an opportunity to engage with you. So once you fine-tune your approach, we have to focus on behavior, and this is what we call a cookbook. So the way to do this, we have this tool available also. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but the way to build a cookbook is to, and the purpose of a cookbook is to determine the kind of behavior necessary for me to achieve my weekly or my monthly income and revenue goals. So first I have to figure out what that goal is. What's my monthly revenue goal? How much revenue do I earn, or how much do I sell per customer? How many new customers do I need to achieve that revenue goal? How many number of telephone appointments do I need to get in order to get one person to buy? How many times does it take me to pick up the phone and call to get one conversation or one appointment with a prospect? How many attempts to get one contact? How many times do I have to dial before I get somebody to answer the phone? We went through this exercise with one of our good clients, and they determined that, and they have everybody in their team doing it, on average across 8 salespeople, they're making about 50 dials a day. It turns out that working backwards into their cookbook numbers, they're achieving their monthly revenue goals. They didn't think they would, but they just closed last Friday the single biggest deal in the history of the company, just from a prospecting call and as a result of this cookbook. So now I know the number of daily attempts required for each of my sellers and for you to achieve that revenue goal that you've established. And the rule is this: you can't manage anything you can't control. In today's day and age, especially, we cannot control whether a prospect buys or not. We have no control over that whatsoever. Prospects buy for their reasons, not for your reasons. You can have the greatest widget in the world. People just don't care. Especially now, they have their own issues and concerns. We have no control as to why they buy or why they don't buy. The only thing we can control is our behavior. Had a conversation last week with the revenue officer of another company, and he said he's really stressing about hitting his numbers for the month of May. They didn't adjust his numbers downward to reflect the current situation. I said, what are they doing behaviorally? Well, I don't know, but they got to hit that number. Manage the numbers. Don't manage the number. Don't manage the revenue goal. Just manage your behavior. I need to make this number of calls, this many conversations, this number of presentations. If we do the behavior, the numbers will take care of itself. So, Clint, take it from here. How successful are you at winning additional business?
All right, so let's give you some structure around this. Click, Jim. All right, so take a look at this. This is when we talk about business, right? Revenue generation. We got hunting, we got the attaining that we're going to talk about, but then we also have expanding and getting more business from your current clients and customers. So this came out of our research study that really focuses in on, look at these two numbers here, right? Most companies aren't doing a really good job of, I'll call it more so cross-selling. It could be upselling, but mostly cross-selling. How many products do you have that you can deliver to the current client base that you have? When I'm working with clients, we call this, hey, I need you to be in the banker mindset. The banker mindset is, if I can get you to buy 3 of my services, if I can get you to get a checking account, savings account, and a loan, or a mortgage, you will never leave me. You become so sticky. So this is the same sort of methodology, same sort of process. Do we have a banker's mentality around our current client base in order to grow our revenues? So we have a little bit of a model that we want to take you through here. It's called KARE. This is something we introduce to every single one of our clients. It's simply a model of that helps you to plan out the amount of time you're going to spend, and where your revenue is going to come from what clients you've got. So you can see here, keep, attain, recapture, expand. And look at these two. Attain and recapture are hunting processes, those hunting areas, going after new logos and getting companies back. Keep and attain are expansion opportunities to be able to continue to grow your current client base that you've got. So some real quick definitions, and you can define this within your organization. When we do this with companies, we have them define it. Keep is typically these descriptors. Small clients, keep them happy. Let's make sure that we can digitally touch them more so than spending our valuable time going after them. And odds are, if we stay in touch with them as much digitally as we possibly can, they will never leave us, but we want to keep them around. Next is attain. These are the ideal clients, the logos that you're going after, the business that you're trying to attain. So do you have that list of 50 to 250 clients that you're going after now that you have your ideal client? And what percentage of my revenue needs to come from new logos in order to hit my monthly or quarterly or annual quota? Next is recapture. Here's what I'd encourage you to do. When you go through your own LinkedIn connections and do a little bit of searching on who you're going after, I know I've done this. I've looked through some VPs of sales and chief revenue officers, and I've seen some folks on there that I haven't talked to in years and years. So as a recapture, and I've done business with them at some point in time, I've reached out to them, sent them a note. Hey, hope you're doing well through all of this. Hey, we're doing some give back. Would you be open to having a conversation? Maybe there's some things that we can do to help your team. No charge, of course. That's something that Jim and I, as a strategy, we put forth as a recapture, but truly we want to give back. If nothing ever comes back, that's okay. But that was our mode in order to do that. Maybe same way with you guys. And then last is expand. These are the ones that you're looking at and going, hey, if I spend some time and energy and effort here, I can get more revenue out of this client. There's more projects, there's more work that can be done. So once you have this and you look at this model, now what we want you to do is put the time allocation to it. Do I need to spend 15% of my time in keep accounts, 50% of my time hunting for attain, 10% in recapture? And now somebody's there going, oh, Clint better know the math because I sure as heck don't. Whatever's left over and expand, right? So that way you have an idea of how you're going to schedule out your week from a prospecting standpoint.
So lots of ground we covered. Again, the goal here was to share with you not just our opinion, but some raw data that we've come up with in terms of what's working, what's not working, and more importantly, where you should focus your efforts going forward as we now get back into the idea of getting in front of clients and customers, at least virtually, if not physically. How do we go about getting back to business? What's the most effective and efficient way to now generate revenue for your clients, for your business? How do we get in front of those clients and customers? How do we get those referrals and introductions? So we hope that you are in the midst of business planning. Maybe your business was of the kind that maybe you never took your foot off the gas. We know several clients that reported to us that they just had the best April they've ever had. Don't know how they did that, but they did that simply because we suspect, and after talking with them, they kept their foot on the gas, focusing on the behaviors, focusing on the activity, generating the revenue. So the question is, what's the one best practice you can implement from this research? By the way, if you'd like a hard copy of this study, we're happy to share it with you. We'll give you all the data points and all the research behind it. But as you think about that, the best practice you can implement from this research, we've had a couple of questions come in on the chat box. And if you've got a couple of questions or a couple of observations you'd like to make, please feel free to do that. Clint, I got one for you. As it relates to LinkedIn, somebody asked the question, since we're all in sales and we want to cast a wide net, doesn't it make sense to accept all of the LinkedIn requests that come in?
So this is where you've got to look at your industry and your business and go, okay, what's my strategic approach to LinkedIn? If you are a recruiter and you're in the recruiter business and you need to connect to everybody and everybody, wonderful, great. If not, now if you do that, but your specific target market is a certain business or a certain industry, but now you've allowed thousands of other people that have no strategicness to your network whatsoever. You have just created noise for yourself, because any of the feeds that you're going to look at and see is going to be from that wonderful person that works at a 7-Eleven in San Diego that you have no reason to ever connect with. So look at it as you're creating your network, your tight-knit network. So unless you are in the business that, hey, it doesn't matter who they are, I can work with anybody and everybody, absolutely not. That's my opinion. I'd rather have you stay focused on the industry and keeping your feed and your connections to the people that you want to be able to get in front of. Because I get connections all the time, or invites from all the time, from people that I have no earthly idea why they are sending me a connection, as they're a Java developer from India. That's wonderful. That's great. I'm sure they're doing a great job, but it has no meaning whatsoever for me to have them in. And now all of a sudden I'm seeing some posts that have no value to me. So that's why I would say, I think you really have to look at your strategy and not connect to and fill up your network full of people that just don't mean anything to what you're trying to accomplish. It's a valuable network. Hey, you remember a few years ago when LinkedIn got hacked? Remember that? They got hacked and everybody was like, hey, change your password, change your password. I remember we were at a Sandler conference and somebody asked me that. They said, hey, you know, you hear about LinkedIn getting hacked? And I said, yeah. And they were like, well, did you change your password? I'm like, no. And he goes, oh, okay, well, what would happen to you if you lost all of your connections? How much would that cost you? I'm like, you win. Within 10 minutes, I went in, logged back on, changed my password, because to me, it's that my network is that valuable. So that's kind of how I'd answer that question.
So here's a question that came in. When you think about targeting new opportunities, the hunt for new revenue, and we know that we obviously have to maintain and hang on to and preserve the relationships in the business that we have, but if we're going to pivot and if we're going to shift our focus to new opportunities, what would you suggest would be the best way to go about prioritizing your time and your efforts, maintaining your current clients as opposed to hunting for new opportunities? How do we prioritize those efforts?
Oh my gosh, we gave them the answer. KARE. Go back to KARE and figure out how much revenue you need to make. Let's say you have $1 million quota. I want you to take that $1 million and break it up into your keep accounts, break it up into attain, recapture, and expand. Allocate how much money needs to go into each bucket, and then now turn around and allocate the equivalent amount of time to that activity. So if you're in an account management primary role and you're going to get 60-70% of your quota retirement from expansion opportunities, well, then that's where you need to spend that amount of time. Now, secondly, I did a talk at our Sandler Client Summit that was back in March, and we had about 1,400 clients from all over the globe there.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, early March. Yeah, thank goodness it was the first week of March. And this was one of the slides that I talked about, is expectations. Does your manager have an expectations of how much new business, new logo you need to attain to hit your quota versus how much you need to get out of that through your expansion? If there's a disconnect there, you could possibly get more out of the expansion, but no, they're looking to grow top line logos revenue from that standpoint. So if there's a disconnect there, you got to sit down with your manager, or if you're a manager or a leader, you got to sit down with your salespeople and say, look, I can't have you just farming these accounts and making the amount of commissions that you're making. I need you to come up with at least 25% of your revenue number from new business and new logos. So there's a lot of expectations that have to be set between salesperson and the sales leader on where's that revenue supposed to come from. Some sales leaders might say, I don't care how you get to your $1 million number, as long as you get to it. Now you've got the format in order to spend your time. Others might say, no, absolutely, we're really focused right now on new logo growth, so I need this % of your $1 million to come from new logos.
So on the screen, you see the question, what is the one best practice you can implement from this research? take a minute and type that in the chat room. What's the best practice? We got one that was sent in, said, listen to my clients' concerns. Don't focus on what it is I'm trying to sell. Ask how I can help, which is a great observation. Put yours in the chat room. And Clint and I would like to extend you this offer. If you would like some help in terms of how I can get there, how I can help implement those best practices, that's all we've been doing for the last 90 days. We do that regularly anyhow. But if there's something that we can do for you in terms of brainstorming and implementing some of those best practices, please feel free to reach out with us offline. A lot of you we know, some of you we don't know. We're easy to get a hold of. We also want to take a minute to thank you for your participation, not just today, but over the last several weeks. If you haven't taken advantage of this yet, this is a terrific resource. It's our Sandler e-learning library. It's free. All you've got to do is log into it. It gets you white papers, podcasts, webinars, videos, course samples, newsletters. That's all free, and the resources in there are unbelievable. So take advantage of that, or if you want to reach out to us individually and just kind of brainstorm best practices, or if you need any of the documents that are in this presentation, we're happy to share them with you. That's our contact information, our email address, our phone number. We're on duty 24/7 just about, so we need to think about that, not working so much, right? But anyhow, we're happy to help. Please feel free to reach out. Anything we can do, we're here for you. Thank you. Good luck, good selling, and have a great week.
Thanks, everybody. Glad you're here.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.